Yo guys, it's Mighty, and in this video I want to talk about the fastest cloth pad I've ever used and the fastest cloth pad I think is on the market right now. This is of course the Artisan Shidenkai, and it is a quote-unquote cloth pad even though it is glass infused on the surface, which does make it really fast. And when I mean fast, I mean very close to the speed of a SkyPad, and it is very fun to use. I did use it initially with Jades. These are not the original skates I used it with. I used normal Jade dots, and since this pad is glass, it will wear down very quickly on normal PTFE skates. So if you are not aware of that and you do use your normal skates on it, don't be surprised if your skates do wear down to be very flat over the first 2-week period. Other than that, this fun is very enjoyable to use. It has all the basics of a cloth pad, which means having a very nice base. This base does move around a little bit when you first do place it down on your desk, but after it sticks for a while, it sticks like every other artisan pad or every other pour-on base pad. It just does not move. Also, it's soft. It doesn't have the hardness of a glass pad. So some people do get affected by the hardness of a glass pad on their wrists or on their arms. It just doesn't feel good after they use it for so long and pressing down, and you won't have that same effect on this pad. This pad is the mid version, which means there's very little pushback, and the mouse doesn't sink into this at all. So it is as close to a hard pad as you can get while still being a soft pad. Coming over to the stitching, this stitching I do feel like is a little bit higher than some of the other artisan pads. It does feel like it's a little bit higher than surface level or on surface level. Also, I did use this pad for a few minutes without a sleeve, even though I do like to use a sleeve on every pad, and it is usable. My hand doesn't really stick to it. When my hand isn't very sweaty, it doesn't stick to it very much, but if you do have very sweaty hands like I would, I would still recommend using a sleeve. Since this pad is very smooth, you'd expect it to not catch at all, no matter what, on your sleeve. However, since it is glass infused and there are tiny glass beads on the surface, I do feel that the beads kind of tug on my sleeve from time to time. It's not very drastic, it's only when I make big swipes and I feel a little tiny pinch on my sleeve, but it's definitely not unusable and is very nice to use with the sleeve. To start off, I do have a pad that I feel like is very similar in the surface texture, even though this pad is still smoother and faster in every regard. I do feel like this pad is the closest when it comes to texture feel, since it is extremely smooth. It definitely isn't as fast, with this pad having a little bit more dynamic friction than this pad does. As you can see, this pad just shoots across As you can see, the mouse just shoots across this pad, while this is a little bit more controlled. The static friction I do feel like is pretty similar, even though of course this is still faster. As you can see, this is one of the fastest pads that's on the market. It is the Kurosa Ninja. Speed, and people do regard it as being almost uncontrollable. Next up, I have the second fastest pad in the Artisan lineup. This is of course the Artisan Raiden Mid, and this is very different. The Raiden does have more of a surface texture than I would like, but it does have very little static and dynamic friction. This is of course, like I said, with the Ninja, it's nothing compared to this pad. There is no pad that I really have that's cloth that compares to the speed of this pad, and that's why I just like it so much. But when it just comes down to surface feel, surface texture, speed, this pad is of course on top and beats out this pad in every single regard. Next up to compare, I have a SkyPad 3.0 XL, and to say that these pads are very similar, while this being a hard glass pad, is insane. No other mousepad that I've had or that I've seen has come close to the speed of a SkyPad, yet this pad somehow does, while being half the price of the SkyPad and cloth at the same time. One thing that you would notice between these two pads is definitely the loudness. The SkyPad, just because it's glass and the way it's made, is a whole lot louder when there is any little bit of dust on its surface, while with the Shidenkai, it's relatively quiet no matter how much dust on the surface, and I don't really hear the sound of the skates when I am playing, and I've had no problem with any grinding or any dust feel on the skates themselves. The SkyPad also does have a very sharp edge, while this pad of course has a stitched edge, which makes it a whole lot nicer to use without a sleeve than this pad does. Overall, if you are in the market of a very fast speed pad and you're trying to decide between the Shidenkai and getting a glass pad, mostly I think would you want the fastest pad on the market, which is of course the SkyPad right now, or can you settle with something a little bit slower while being slightly more comfortable and also cloth? Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my thoughts about the Shidenkai. If you do want to check out this pad, I will link it down in the description below. Until next time, peace.